Good?
Uh-huh.
How many fishermen do I have in the room by a show of hands? Alright. How many of you have heard of Bass Pro Shops? See, I have a highly educated room. Alright, well, today we're going to learn about the history of Bass Pro Shops and how this outdoor apparel empire began. So, for starters, the founder, John L. Morris, was born in Springfield, Missouri in 1948 to two avid outdoors people. He was raised to hunt, to fish, and you can see here a picture of him fishing on the river with his dad. Whenever he got to be about 18 years old, he decided to fish professionally in tournaments for 5 years, which led him to want to get into the tackle business. He decided to get into the fishing tackle business because he went back to his hometown Springfield, and the only place where you could buy lures and bait was at Gibson's Discount Center. And he went in there, and they didn't have a really big selection. And so he asked the owner, he was like, "Hey, can you get more lures so I can fish better?" And the guy gave him a harsh no. And so he was fed up with the tackle business in there, and he talked to his dad, who owned a string of liquor stores. And in 1971, his dad allowed him to have 8 feet of space to sell lures and hard-to-find bait for fishermen. And so while he was fishing professionally, he became good friends with Bill Dance, who is a very famous professional fisherman. And Bill Dance, which is this guy with the Tennessee Vols hat, showed up at the first opening of Bass Pro Shops. And then the business kept growing and growing, and in 1974, he issued his first catalog, and it was a monstrous, 180 pages with over 1,500 items in it, and it was a huge success, and the business grew from there. So the designs, any of you who have been there, you know that Bass Pro has pretty cool store designs, and he got his inspiration from LL Beans in Freeport, Maine, which is an outdoor apparel and gear place, and he also made a trip to Europe with his siblings in the 1980s, and he saw some other outdoorsy stores there, and so he got inspiration to have the indoor ponds, the waterfalls, the indoor shooting range. That's where all of that came from. Something borrowed. And speaking of the indoor ponds, so they have legendary fish tanks. All of you who went there as kids loved going to see the fish tanks. I know I did. And so the first one was actually made from an abandoned gas storage tank with a 4-foot square window to view the little fishies. And that grew as the business grew to the Ontario tank, which is the biggest one. And it's a 3-tier waterfall that goes into a 24,000-gallon tank with all these fish, and it has a 10,000-gallon pond for trout out back. So yeah. And then another cool thing that happened, so you see this picture of this monstrous bass right here. That is Ethel the bass. So she was a once record-holding bass from Texas, because everything's bigger in Texas. She weighed 17.6 pounds, and Mark Stevenson caught her in 1986. And one of Morris's employees heard about her and went down and talked to Stevenson and convinced him to let her be put in Bass Pro Shops, where people came from all over the country to go see her. And whenever she died in 94, they actually held a funeral for her, and there was an obituary online and everything. She is survived by her children. So, Bass Tracker Boats was another really cool part of the Bass Pro Shops story. Before Morris, boats were sold. There's the boat, there's the motor, there's the trolling motor, there's the fish finder. Everything, the trailer, was sold separately, so it was really expensive. And him being a professional fisherman, he knew how expensive it was. So he was tired of it, and he decided to revolutionize and change the business. And so he sold the first boat kit, package deal all together, with the trailer, with the motor, with the trolling motor, with the cover, everything. came with it, and it made it a lot cheaper, and thousands of families were able to get on the water for the first time, which ultimately helped him because more people could go fishing. So, and ever since then, it's been America's #1 boating brand, and it just topped in the world charts a few years ago. Bass Pro Shops today. It is the leading national retailer for outdoor gear and apparel. And all of you are probably wondering, well, what about Cabela's? Well, so Cabela's started a few years after Bass Pro Shops became really famous, and they based their store off of Bass Pro Shops. Like they took the skeleton of Bass Pro and made it their own. And in 2017, Bass Pro Shops bought Cabela's. Like they purchased it, and so now all of them are owned by Cabela's or by Bass Pro Shops. So it just keeps growing bigger and bigger. And there's over 200 Bass Pro Shops nationwide, and each of them is a little bit more personal to the town. Like right here, this one is in Memphis. It's a giant pyramid. Inside, there's personal touches, but the pyramid obviously has nothing to do with Memphis. But inside, you're gonna find like wildlife that's relative to what's around there. So like we go to the one that's in Ottawa and the one that's in Kansas City, and we see like white-tailed deer, bass, walleye, all of those things that are in there. Whereas like if you go up to like the Smoky Mountains and there's one, like probably in there, in the Memphis one, there's probably a big bear. Because, you know, they have bears around there. And there might, like, up way north in Maine, there might be one that has like seafood. You know, they try to make it more towards that, like what's locally there. And it is also an award-winning business. It's received numerous awards for being one of like the best companies to work for. Cities beg to have Bass Pro Shops because they have really good benefits when you work there. So yeah, there's my works cited in case any of you were curious about that. But thank you for listening to my speech. I hope you enjoyed the speech over Bass Pro Shops. That's it.